Today is a monumental day on the podcast. We have an in-person guest who is going to rocket us to the top of the charts. Welcome to Kingdom Speak with Pastor Daniel McKillop. When I usually do intros, I try to contextualize the discussion, like...
Yeah, I noticed you skipped over that.
Today we're going to be talking about trees, and you make puns. And today I thought it was so important just to highlight the guest.
Yeah.
And she is going to bring the content.
The what?
The what? She is going to bring the content. She. Ladies
and gentlemen, we have a she on the podcast for the first time
ever.
What an intro.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm. So not only do we have a guest, but we have a she guest.
We're bringing the gender diversity to the show today. We're bringing the...
Wow. We're checking the boxes.
Yeah. Yeah. So before we turn her loose, I have to do my usual things,
You're so predictable.
How are you today, guys?
Oh, yeah, here we go. Yeah,
that's good. First on the list. Okay, yeah. And then the next thing is good to see you guys.
Yeah,
Number
good to see you.
3 is, hey, let's read a review.
Let's go. Okay.
Did you know people leave us reviews?
We have a 5-star review from Apple Podcasts from Bob.
No, not Bob.
Bill?
And not Bill. Today it's Lemgen.
Lemgen.
Okay.
What do you have to say?
Okay.
I think that means like Lemon Jennifer or something.
Jennifer Lemon?
I don't know what it means. Lemgen, you can tell us what it means. However, the review says this: don't listen and drive. I had to stop listening to this podcast while commuting to work because I never know when one of those Bible bombs is going to hit me and leave me in tears.
That's awesome.
It's also difficult.
Need wipers for the inside of the windshield.
To dance while driving. Thank you for all the excellent content. So we will say a digital amen to that. Jen. Amen.
Oh, yes.
Sounds like Jen needs to get herself a Tesla.
Why is that?
Well, then it could just drive itself, and then she could worship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She could also potentially buy a Bible Bomb merchandise item from our upcoming
list.
Have we got some stuff in the pipe?
Pike.
No, pipe bomb. Come on, man.
Pipe bomb.
It's pipe.
Pipe bomb.
Now you're going to get us demonetized on YouTube for saying bomb.
Yeah, true.
True story.
True.
I actually think that's why some of our episodes get flagged. And then when we apply, they always reverse it. But we're using the word bomb, which is violent. But yeah, we do have, missionary John Lambeth hooked us up with a cartoonist.
Yeah.
And
you're gonna love it.
There are some beautiful cartoons for merch, including one of producer Randy with large pieces of duct tape over his mouth.
That's a personal favorite.
And I'm here for it. I want a hoodie with his duct taped face. That's what I want. Or a pair of socks.
I want to see that too.
Yeah.
I want to see that too.
Hey, give us ideas for merch.
Yeah.
If there's something particular that you want that duct taped face on.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Something. Yeah.
I feel
like a Target.
Oh, yes, that's great.
A Target. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if we can.
Take it out, get out my shotgun.
Oh,
yeah.
boy.
We'll see if we can get that. Oh, man. Yeah. 2 flags.
Can I read another review?
Yeah.
Because these ones are going to disappear on us before. So this one is titled Fire Service. I listened to your recent podcast and believe I heard that Pastor McKillop is a firefighter. This made my day. I'm pastor of First Apostolic Church of Sheridan, Arkansas, and currently serve as assistant chief of our combination fire department. Public service is absolutely intertwined with ministry. I love the podcast Kingdom Speak. I have shared with a number of our saints. Keep up the work. Love and prayers from the South. Pastor Joseph Scott. We will
Hey,
say amen to that.
awesome.
Thank you, sir, for your service.
The only
Randy can't say. Oh, go ahead.
the only non-volunteer firefighter on this podcast would be the co-host.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And our guest.
Well, it's true. Actually, she's kind of a little involved. So,
Yeah. She's usually awake when I'm awake.
yeah,
Yeah.
she handles the
I
money.
thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Awesome. The reviews are excellent. We read them. Appreciate them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the comments we're getting a lot of dialogue happening on our social media channels, and that's great. If you haven't been to kingdomspeak.ca, check it out. Go join up. We haven't talked a lot about that lady lately. Lady, we get that on the mind. But check it out.
Yeah, and we get that merch store up and rolling. And the bottleneck is producer Randy on this.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can
if
you
just-
send over that design that I'm waiting for? Thank you.
Yeah, it's in your email,
Oh,
actually.
thank you. I do not see it yet, but once I
Love
get
having
it,
staff meetings on the show.
once we
great.
get that design, we can finalize the order.
Yeah.
This is an HR issue that we'll talk about after the podcast. Thank you very much. But honestly, there is some merch. I know we've said that before, but there really is. You got to believe us. And that will also boost our website because you'll be able to go there and buy stuff.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And new coffee mugs are also, by the time this episode
Out
will
for
be
delivery.
up, they will have
Yeah.
landed and we will update our site.
Yeah.
Those
You notice
Today,
it's
today
just
the boss got us on the corporate. Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew you weren't going to show on the camera. Let's show it up there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have a nice glossy black mug and no necktie as well. So checking all the boxes today.
Have to
yes.
keep that tradition alive.
Yes. Yes.
So how did this happen? When you told us that the first lady of Family Worship Center was coming on the podcast, I didn't believe it.
You didn't believe it.
No.
I'm going to let her
Okay.
explain how this went down. So we were on a date.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yes, we were on a date,
Yeah.
and I was trying to do this date right. So I thought, I am going to incorporate some new, hot off the press information that I just was privy to.
I like this. Yeah.
So I will give a shout out right now to Dear Young Married Couples, because that is where I got this information.
Are we a young married couple?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I was going to say that I'm not sure you are the target audience, but anyways,
Yeah.
I will not say that.
And I was going through their pre-equipped premarital counseling
Course.
course. Yeah.
Huge shout out for that.
Absolutely.
Great material.
Very
And a great
good material.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in amongst that information was a suggestion. And they suggest that every couple should do this. And more days than not, you should ask your spouse 3 questions. Number 1 being, what went well in our relationship today?
Okay.
Number 2 is what maybe didn't go quite so well in our relationship today. And number 3 being, what can I do to help you?
That was the problem right there.
You want to believe it.
That was the problem.
Oh no, this wasn't a problem.
So you literally asked him these
So
questions? or-
I
yeah.
thought, oh, he is going to be so impressed. I'm going to just,
Yeah.
go about this the right way. So, I asked him number 1, and he was like, I think everything went good in our relationship today. And I was like, I do too.
What-
It's not lunch yet, but
we go.
we're doing good.
Here we go.
And then,
What about number 2?
number 2 didn't get a lot of dialogue. We didn't really,
really?
talk about
That
it a
was a
lot.
pretty good
No,
day.
he was like, wow, good
I've
question.
learned that if you ask those questions on the right days, it goes better than some.
You just got to be a little selective.
So we got through 1 and 2.
We did. And I said, and number 3 is, what can I do to help you? And I was sincerely asking this question, what can I do to help you? And whoa,
And I sincerely,
Had a reply.
yeah,
Yeah.
He didn't even take time to think about it. It was like
didn't
right there.
I didn't have to.
And I said, oh, why did I go to number 3? Why didn't we just stick on number 1? Let's just talk about all the things that's going well in our relationship.
Yeah.
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 He's like, did you know that I have a podcast and I have guests on?
No, it wasn't even that. No. It was like next Tuesday.
Woo. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Phew.
It really isn't,
No.
is it? I don't think so.
Well,
No.
You
She
know,
was so excited. She was up at 6 o'clock this morning. I asked her, can we go yet? Can we
pacing
go?
the floor.
Can we go? Is it time yet?
yeah.
Does he talk to you about the podcast? I need to ask a few questions before he gets into your topic. But does he talk to you about the podcast? Does he say
Absolutely.
anything about us? Does he complain or does he?
No.
Okay.
He gives you good
Yeah.
ratings.
Did he mention like when we started the podcast about how we were trying to get him to do it and he didn't really want to? Like, was he nervous or did he have apprehension or?
I kind of felt like she does now.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was pacing the floor at 6 a.m.
So what was the other
That's right.
2 questions he asked you guys before he got to number 3?
man,
He
yeah.
said, what can I do to help you, man?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's good to have you. I think it's awesome.
You know, we've gotten some specific requests. We don't have solutions for all of them yet. We're working on stuff. Got some exciting stuff lined up. Even on the scope of translation, you know, is it possible to get this in other languages? That's a very interesting. If anybody has input on that, we'd appreciate it. But one of the things that has come up a few times is we need some ladies on the show.
That's right.
After we recovered from the personal affront, we said, you know what, this is not a bad idea. When you look at the demographics of our social media, we're like, I don't know, 56, 45, 46, 44, in that range, gender split. So we do have a lot of ladies that listen. So I didn't think it would be right to kick open the floodgates
Right.
on that particular demographic without starting with the first lady. So we are glad that you are here.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
And
It was almost believable.
yes, that's good. That's good.
Very well. Yes.
That's good. She's playing for the cameras well. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
All right, let's try that one more time.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm happy to be
Take-
here.
Yeah, that's
take
better.
two?
Very good.
Take 2.
Yeah.
So I think we're definitely addressing that point in having a lady on the show, and we're honored to have that. But we're also going to talk about a topic that I think is important that comes from a lady's perspective and voice, because it does by and large impact them, and that is being a keeper of the home.
Absolutely.
And there is a stigma. Let me ask you this, as we're kind of setting this up. If I could offer you producer Randy's position, would you be willing to take that in exchange for your role as a mom? Or, could I entice you with
Technology? No.
No, don't bring that.
I think that's an amen right there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you like me to trade?
Would you just check your phone right now and see how many emails is on your notification?
I'm going
Can
to
you
say
check?
Oh,
Please, no, for the audience, do it. Throw it down.
Yeah, she just cast that thing down, didn't she?
How
She
many
cast it down.
hundred unread emails?
Yeah.
guilty.
Yeah.
Technology is not my priority.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No.
But you do have priorities,
Absolutely.
and they are.
My home, my family,
Mm-hmm.
my church,
Absolutely.
Sure.
God.
Yep, for sure.
So we're in a society that has, could I say it this way? It has suppressed or stigmatized the the role of a mom in the home being a keeper of the home. And put it almost really second rate, haven't they? To corporate pursuits, career pursuits.
Absolutely.
And so we want to speak to that a bit today, because this is not an idea that this podcast has come up with or religion has come up with, but this is a biblical principle, and there is a responsibility there, and there is a reward
Absolutely.
associated with being a keeper.
Eternal reward.
True. Yeah. So how, I think one of the ways of reversing that stigma, because I wish there was a wall that we could delineate between how the world views things and how the church views things, but there's always that mixed multitude outer ring where there's an overlapping of how the church views something versus how the world views something. So I think for us to better understand that, maybe you could talk a bit about what does a keeper entail? What does that define? What defines a keeper?
Well, I think by definition, a keeper is a person who guards or watches, holds in place, or retains. Some synonyms for a keeper, and I think it kind of helps paint a mental picture, would be caretaker, custodian, a defender, an overseer, a protector, a steward, someone who's got a passion and a goal to protect, to be on their guard.
And this is what was in the writer's mind in Titus when he said that you were to be a keeper of the home.
Absolutely.
Why don't you read that for us, Brother Derek, in the Amplified?
Which verse do you want me to start with?
Why don't you read 1 to 6?
1 to 6. Okay, we're in Titus 2 in the Amplified. But as for you, teach what is fitting and becoming to sound, wholesome doctrine, the character and right living that identify true Christians. Urge the older men to be temperate, venerable, serious, sensible, self-controlled, and sound in the faith, in the love, and in the steadfastness and patience of Christ. Bid the older women similarly to be reverent and devout in their deportment as becomes those engaged in sacred service, not slanderers or slaves to drink. They are to give good counsel and be teachers of what is right and noble, so that they will wisely train the younger women to be sane and sober of mind, temperate, disciplined, and to love their husbands and their children, to be self-controlled, chaste, homemakers, good-natured, kind-hearted, adapting and subordinating themselves to their husbands, that the word of God may be not exposed to reproach, blasphemed, or discredited. In a similar way, urge the younger men to be self-restrained and to behave prudently.
So to be homemakers.
Well, yeah, homemakers. So this is what he's getting across. I want you to be someone who guards, watches, defends.
Absolutely. The home.
Right. Which is the most valuable asset that we have.
Absolutely.
Right. So this principle is elsewhere in Scripture.
Yes. You mean a keeper?
Yeah.
The Bible speaks a lot about a keeper. Right about 40 times, maybe, give or take. The King James Version specifies keepers. The principle of being a keeper, though, actually started in the first book of the Bible.
Yes.
Genesis.
Yeah, you're right.
The very first family. God was very specific when he placed Adam and Eve in the garden.
Yeah.
He said, I want you to dress the garden
And
Yeah, exactly.
and
That's right.
keep it.
wow. So then this existed before sin.
Absolutely.
This responsibility of I'm going to entrust something to your care and I want you to keep it. Wow. Wow. That's kind of like the master. What's the parable that talks about I'm going to go away. I'm leaving this talent with you. I'm leaving this responsibility with you.
That's right.
And when I come back, I'm going to check what you did with it.
Right.
Wow. So that was there before sin.
Right. And when they sinned and were expelled from the garden, that did not diminish that responsibility.
Right.
Yeah,
God-
he didn't take that away from them.
No.
Yeah, that's right.
No, he didn't say, you're going to leave this garden and
Right.
everything is going to look after itself.
Right.
The things that you are going to value, you're going to have to continue to keep.
And probably be a bit more proactive about it.
Absolutely.
We're now in a fallen world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the propensity for these valuable things to be violated is even higher.
Totally.
And then you have the carnality of Cain when he
Ooh.
wanted to get out of the role.
Well, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
And I mean, Abel was known as a keeper
Ah,
of sheep.
yes. Yes.
And then when Cain slew his
It's
brother
very strong,
Abel,
very strong. Yeah.
and God spoke to him and said, "Where's your brother?
Am
My brother.
Am I my brother's keeper?"
yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
So
Is that-
Adam and Eve must have talked about this, obviously, with them, don't you think?
Yeah. Talked and hopefully demonstrated.
Yeah, it was part of their.
Yeah, they obviously understood.
I mean,
the
there is a
role.
clear answer to that question. Am I my brother's keeper?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yes, you are. So this role of keeping, although in Titus, and we're going to be applying it specifically to the home, but it's much broader than that.
Right.
It's a brother-to-brother responsibility.
Exactly right.
It permeates every aspect of our walk with God. He entrusts things to us.
We kind of talked about this in our stewardship episode, right? Where when God expects you to take care of what He gives you,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Remember that? It's been a while ago now when we talked
Absolutely.
about stewardship, but
Absolutely.
So automatically, when you begin having this discussion, that changes it from the societal depressed view of this role of being a keeper to you're just a keeper of the home. You're just to no, this is my God-given responsibility.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What an honor.
Absolutely.
What an
And you
honor.
know, throughout the Bible, when you read scriptures of people that were designated keepers, they weren't, ashamed to label, I'm the keeper of the carriage, or I'm the keeper of that was a prestigious position. Obviously, my boss, my manager, he trusts me enough that he left me in charge of his carriage. I am keeping his carriage.
Well, and you
or-
know that he's picking one of the most responsible people at his disposal if it's something that's that valuable,
Absolutely.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
You're not scraping the bottom of the barrel to keep protection of the crown jewels, but you're enlisting the best that you've got.
Right. Someone you feel is capable.
The mothers of Titus are the ones that are entrusted. And corporate America positions in corporate America cannot compete with that.
Right.
You have been entrusted. Anything valuable is entrusted to the hands of a keeper.
Right.
For sure.
Right.
Wow.
And I think the level of passion that you put into your keeping is directly tied to how valuable you think what you are keeping is.
For sure.
And I
sure.
think that could be where some of that mindset has edged its way in. The value of children, the value of human life
Right.
itself
Right.
has been so trivialized.
Right.
And I think the fallout from that is the warped perception of I'm just a keeper, I'm just a homemaker.
Because you don't see the value in what you're keeping.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow. Absolutely. So at that point, you're a stay-at-home mom. You're not a keeper. And those are not synonymous terms,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, if you're despising your role, you're not going to do as good a job as.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, never confuse being a stay-at-home mom with being a keeper of the home.
Absolutely.
Wow, very good.
And you know, David in the Bible,
Yep.
he was labeled and he was ridiculed by his brothers. You're just the keeper of sheep.
Ah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, look what we are. And
Right.
you're just a
Yeah.
keeper of sheep.
we're on the front lines. We're not doing anything, but we're out here.
Yeah, we're just
Yeah, and you're just a keeper of the sheep.
Just a keeper of the sheep.
Again, the tone is there. So really, wow.
It's not new.
It's not just in our generation. It was looked down on.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mm.
But it was what David learned while he was keeping sheep
Exactly. Yeah.
that prepared him for all the other things we read about that David did in the Bible.
There you go. There you go.
And I feel like that's how God prepares. You know, you could look at it. He started out keeping little sheep, probably little lambs that he could hold in one hand.
Mm-hmm.
But then he killed a giant.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, typically God allows us to start with a baby,
Mm-hmm.
something that we can handle.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Something
you
we can
typically
grow
don't
along with.
start out at
Killing
children 18.
giants.
Right.
Yeah.
But God lets you grow with them and you can learn a lot
Yes.
with them.
Yes. Yes.
Your children can teach you things.
Raising children is most oftentimes more about raising parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've said this about Christian education,
Absolutely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Running a Christian school
Mm-hmm.
has a whole lot more to do with training parents than it does kids.
Absolutely right. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
True.
Wow. Wow. So there was a king in that shepherd that was being developed, groomed for the position on a grand scale in the kingdom.
Absolutely.
But that was being cultivated by him exercising responsibility in the role of being a keeper.
Right. In the small things.
And boy, he wrote a bit about that, didn't he?
He did.
Hmm.
In Psalms, I think 121 probably captures this how David felt. I'm sure David felt. But it just reminds us that we are all in the safest keeping that's possible. In verse 4 of Psalms 121 says, "Behold, he who keeps Israel will neither slumber briefly nor sleep soundly." And I like that translation because that just lets you know what? God doesn't even take a nap. He doesn't close his eyes for 1 second because what he is keeping is so valuable and so important to him that he doesn't even slumber, not
Wow.
even briefly.
Wow.
And then verse 5 says, "The Lord is your keeper." That's
Yeah.
who he is.
Yeah.
He is your keeper.
Yeah.
And he's keeping you because you're valuable to him.
And he's passionate about it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Every day, all day,
Right.
he's keeping.
Right.
He is keeping.
So you are really emulating some of those core attributes of who God is by fulfilling that role within
Your home,
your home.
for sure.
So really, why should you be intimidated by, oh, you're just a keeper? Yeah, I'm like God, actually.
Right.
This is what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you, the mainstream approach has been successful in reprogramming how we view the role of motherhood
For sure.
and the significance of their role within that family unit.
Right. And of a keeper.
Wow. Is there a particular lady in the Bible that you go to try to pattern what a keeper is, that demonstrates that you could talk to us about? Is there one that sticks out to you?
Well, I think there would be probably numerous examples
Sure.
that we could get in here today.
Sure.
The Bible's
Mary.
full of keepers. Right.
Yeah.
Mary is definitely an example of that.
Well, they did leave Jesus
Absolutely.
behind, though. You know.
Wait, what?
Yeah, something's missing. Hey, Joseph.
But she was probably the one that noticed he was missing.
Yeah. Don't put this on Joseph. Come on.
Oh.
I mean, yeah.
I don't know.
Just wanted to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one that we could definitely use as an example today would be this Shunammite lady that the Bible talks about in 2 Kings chapter 4. And there's just a few things that I want to bring out about the Shunammite lady that helps us, see what a keeper she really was.
Sure.
Now, this lady didn't have any children at this time. When we're talking about, she didn't have any children. And from what we can gather, it was just her and her husband living in this home. And it said, and it fell on a day, this is in verse 8 of 2 Kings chapter 4, that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman. And she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was that as oft as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually.
Wow.
So just from those two scriptures, we can draw. She was a great woman.
Yep.
She constrained the prophet, compelled him, and then she perceived that he was a prophet. You can't tell me that the prophet was the only thing or the only person that passed by their house. Probably a lot of traffic passed by.
Oh, for sure. It was clearly a throwaway.
Right. I don't think they were out in the middle of a desert
Sure.
somewhere. So she had that ability. And perception, I think, is a very underrated quality. But
Sure. And it's one that as spirit-filled
right.
believers, we have an edge, or should have an edge on any other area.
That
or-
has
or-
to be
ex-
utilized
exactly.
in keeping.
Yeah.
In keeping. There are times when you have got to be perceptive. Is this a prophet or is this just a
The
passerby?
milkman.
Right.
Right.
Is this something that I want to compel into my home? I think we've all been guilty of compelling things into our home
Wow,
that we'd have wished
right.
we never
Because
compelled.
Scripture talks about the danger of bringing strangers
Right.
in.
Into
So
your home.
is this a stranger? Is this a holy man? So as a keeper of your home, you're juggling all of those abilities.
Right.
Wow, that's good. So she was great.
She was a great woman. She constrained.
She constrained. She knew what to compel to be a part of her home
Right.
and what to let go past. Wow, there's so many applications to this.
And then she perceived that he was a prophet.
Right. Which
And
those,
so
yeah.
once she
Yeah.
brought him in and gave him bread, probably a few times, then she realized, if we could take this a little farther.
So then she brings a solution.
Right.
She solves. Okay, and this is huge in the arena of discussion about that's kind of driven by the feminist culture that would paint the church as being a chauvinist organization, that everything has to come from a man, top down. But we don't read anything about this guy.
Right.
This is all her. Her greatness, her perception, her constraining, and her solving.
Right.
So as much as we understand headship, we also have to be very real with the understanding from this, as you're talking about this, that we don't need to be threatened by the fact that a keeper of the home can perceive, constrain, and solve. We need to build a piece on for this guy.
Right.
It was her idea.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And it
Wow,
was a
very good.
simple plan. It wasn't extravagant. It wasn't huge. It was a simple plan, but it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can go on to read the story, how God blessed the keeper with more to keep because she kept what she had well.
It's a great story.
That's good. That's good. And so her impact then really was beyond just the square footage of her house.
Absolutely. A keeper's impact can far surpass the four walls that you may feel inhibit you.
Mm-hmm.
Until we have no idea who all was impacted. Because I'm sure that prophet talked about that lady everywhere he went.
He did.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere he went.
You know he did.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So keepers are great.
Mm-hmm.
Keepers constrain.
Mm-hmm.
Keepers perceive.
Mm-hmm.
And keepers can solve.
Wow. Wow.
Sounds like a full-time job.
You guys must get paid a lot of money for doing this.
It is a full-time job. To keep well, it is a full-time job.
Did you guys ever feel like your mom had eyes in the back of her head?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sides.
I was convinced that she did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sitting at the supper table, she just comes up with a question and you're like, how does she know that?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
That's perception.
Thought I had her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Looking back now, she might have been, bluffing,
Stabbing blindly in the dark.
Yeah.
That's
But
right.
she was good at it. She was good at it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So you mentioned that. Okay, the Shunammite lady was not a keeper after she expanded the size of the blueprint of her house. She was a keeper prior to that.
Right.
She wasn't a keeper after she received a child miraculously through supernatural intervention. She was a keeper before that.
Absolutely.
So this is not about houses and yards and square footage then either, is it?
No. There's a huge difference between a house and a home.
Ah, for sure.
You build a house,
Mm-hmm.
but you keep a home.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
So we never confuse houses and homes.
I think that is a very dangerous thing to do because there will always be someone with a bigger and a better house.
Mm-hmm.
But there doesn't have to be anyone with a more settled home.
Yeah, and really that ties back to, I've got to take this job, pursue this career, because I have a particular house that I want,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
and we sacrifice our home
For the house.
for the house.
Absolutely.
Wow! And so what you're saying is we've got to keep that perspective.
In balance. And I don't think there's anything wrong with desiring and
For sure.
God blesses people with beautiful houses.
Yeah.
And I think that's commendable.
Yeah.
And I think you need to strive
Sure.
to be the best that you can be.
Sure.
But you can't let that striving blur the line of the keeping.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing you say really that you can have a home then in a house that may not be coveted by everybody in the neighborhood.
Absolutely. But that's what's gonna matter. You can have a home in a tent.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
You can go spend a couple nights in the hotel room with your family and make it a home.
Make that a home. Yeah.
Home is not the structure, the physical structure that surrounds you.
Yep.
It's what you make it to be. It's what you build it to be. The Bible says she buildeth with her hands. It's what you craft inside that structure.
Probably most people in our audience right now are thinking about, their mom and dad or, the home that they grew up in. It just has that, I don't know how to describe it, but they're just those intangible feelings, right?
Right.
We're just coming through the Christmas holidays, so you go to your wherever you hang out, if it's not at your parents or wherever, and it just has that comfort. There's, there are things about a home, like you say, it's not just about having $1 million structure.
Right.
You know, you can visit a home that's just a simple little spot.
Yeah, and as you're talking about this, is it not? But there's exceptions to this rule, obviously, but by and large, generationally, our houses are nicer
Yes.
than
yes.
what our parents had,
Mm-hmm.
or for sure at the same time of life,
Very much so.
right?
Right.
So we've got nicer houses, but our homes in better shape.
Mm-hmm. And do we have that homemaking ability that our previous generations had?
Yeah,
Like my grandmother could put on a spread.
Exactly.
yeah.
And the ability to make something out of nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's an art.
Yeah.
It
It
really is.
really is an art.
Yeah.
It
really
is.
an art.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember you and I, man, it's been a couple of years ago. I know he listens to the podcast, so we can mention him, but Elder Kinney.
Yes.
Remember them hosting us one
Yes,
night after
absolutely.
a service.
Yes.
And it's just the epitome of going into someone's home, you know, and man, they know how to just treat you. You know what I
Yes.
It's a
mean?
well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the food and the discussion is like, oh, we got to go already. We've been here 3 hours.
Right.
You know
And
what I mean?
what do you find yourself saying in those moments is, I just feel at home.
Yeah. You just sit
I've never been in the house before,
Yeah.
right.
but I feel at home.
There
At
are
home.
probably nicer kitchens that you could go into, right? Not insulting them, but there are fancier
sure.
buildings that you could go into.
Right.
But man, it's just
A
comfortable.
penthouse does not make a home.
Yeah. It's just comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
And boy, if we're not careful, we glamorize the structure, the physical structure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
in our pursuit to get that, we can sometimes sacrifice the thing that matters the most, which is the home.
The home.
Mm-hmm.
If you can have a beautiful house and keep your home, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can only have one or the other,
Take the home.
keep the home.
Keep the home.
Keep the home.
Mm-hmm.
Keep the home.
Absolutely.
Hey, can I stop you guys? I need to talk to our audience. We don't do this all the time, but we have to ask you to subscribe at this point. We're growing, but if you want to remain on this ship, the seats are limited. And the only way to stay on board is to subscribe. We are going through and kicking out everyone who's not subscribing at this point. So
We
we
know
are
you're right
nearing
there.
our 100th full episode. And I
Well-
just think we need to bring up the bar a little bit and say, look, you know who we are. We know who you are. So subscribe. Just get it over with.
Hit the little bell.
That's right. Did we do this
the
at
bell.
Christmas? Just like this
Yeah,
way
which
or
way?
wherever.
Which way?
The bell on YouTube, Apple Podcasts is pretty easy to subscribe.
Yep.
Spotify. You know how to do it, so I'm not even going to explain it to
And we
but
know you love the show.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
so-
the easiest way to double our audience is everybody tells someone else about us, and we
that's
just,
profound.
my
Do you
God,
think that'll work?
that's a
Is that an actual
You're the
bubble?
numbers
That is.
guy. You're the numbers guy.
It is.
that,
It's
You
the
know,
easiest way.
That's got me stumped. I'm gonna have to.
either that or you can go out and find 4,000 other people.
Okay.
Either way, we're good.
Yeah, it's your choice.
Yeah,
So thank you for subscribing.
absolutely.
And we're not just lying. We really are growing. We're not just trying to provide the illusion that we're part of, those multi-level marketing things. Oh, the growth is off the charts. And no, we're not doing that. But we are growing, and we want to thank you for that. And thank you for listening.
Yes.
We were actually looking at the map the other day, and we're slowly,
Yes.
initially we were trying to get Canada, US, and now we're like creeping through Europe.
Yes. Russia.
Russia, we have listening audience there. Eventually, we're going to have that entire globe just spread.
It is.
Kingdom speakers.
It
so
is.
It's great.
We had people chiming in through some of our social media channels last week. I was reading from Ireland.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
I want to go to Ireland and go golfing. Do you realize it's one of the hot spots of the world to go golfing?
Serious.
100%.
Wow.
So if there's a great church over there,
Do you think I could golf there?
no, you can't. No. You can't even golf here. So for
That's
sure.
like
you can't golf.
that's like the guy that got his hand hurt in an accident real bad, and
Yes.
his hands were all stiff. And he said, "Man, you think I'll be able to play the guitar when I get healed up?" And the guy said, "Oh," the surgeon said, "Yeah, I think so. He said, well, that's good. I couldn't before the accident, but I was just wondering if I was going to be able to after. Yeah, so back to our discussion. What are some of the things that in the whole discussion of houses and homes, not confusing the two, what are some of the things as a keeper that you strive to be?
I think one of the most important ones is to be present, to be there. And I know we read out of Titus in a different translation earlier, but the King James Version in Titus chapter 2, verse 5 says, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home. Not keepers of the home.
Yes.
Keepers at home.
Yes.
So you actually need to be there.
Exactly. Do you know what? There's nothing that can replace that.
Kind of simple, but kind of profound.
Yes.
So can I just use a security camera or something like that just to kind of check in and...
That new Amazon robot that just buzzes through your house.
Would that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your house can be monitored in amazing ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can monitor your house from afar. But a home can't be kept from afar.
Oh.
Very good.
Only
Oh. You just got a bomb.
Wow.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
go off the road.
Very true.
Yeah,
Very true.
yeah. So you can monitor
A house
your house from
afar.
afar.
I mean, you can log in on your
Yeah.
Smartphone.
Do it all the time. Yeah.
and check.
Can you show me?
Oh. That's
Look, I
not
take
fair.
that
That's
back.
not fair. Come on.
Uncalled for on
My
the
husband,
show.
my husband can log in.
I've heard it's possible.
You know, and I've heard him tell me, like, there's somebody talking in our backyard. And I'm like, you know what?
Whatever.
I'm really, right now, that doesn't matter. But that cannot replace.
That's so good. You can monitor the house from around the world.
But you can't keep the home.
Yeah.
Your presence, PRESENCE, will trump presence, PRESENTS.
Oh,
Also very good.
well,
And I think our culture
yes.
tries to reverse that. I'll just give them stuff to appease them. Load them down with presents with the T, and they won't notice that I'm not
That
there.
I'm not there. Wow. Be there.
Be there.
Be there.
Be there. It's that simple.
Well, that's good because that tapping back into what David wrote in Psalms 121 that you was referring to a few moments ago about the Lord being our keeper. He didn't just monitor us from afar,
Right.
but
came
he is an
near.
ever-present
Present.
help.
Right.
He's near. The incarnation was the reality that he came from there to here.
And you know, in our spiritual life, there is nothing that can trump his presence. The C, presence.
Yes.
God gives us lots of presents, but it's his presence
The nearness.
that keeps us.
Wow.
That is what keeps us.
Just being there when the kids come home from school, being there when they get up in the morning.
It's huge.
Just always being there.
It's huge.
Also just being there when the conversation is happening. Not just talking, but being there.
Absolutely.
Present.
Right.
Wow. You know, you mentioned about security cameras a moment ago. I can remember reading an article a number of years ago about different safety alarms that you could use for your pool, swimming pool, if you had a swimming pool in the backyard. So you could take, and it spread this almost like a laser beam over the surface of your pool. And if anything broke that beam, it would trigger an alarm, and you knew someone had fallen in the pool. And that was brilliant. I can remember looking at that because we had a pool and our son was small. But the reality is if I'm upstairs in the house and I hear the alarm go off, I'm still too far away.
Right.
So I'm close enough to be alarmed, but I'm not close enough to reach and intervene or keep them.
Right.
And so we've got to be present. There's no replacement for just being there at the edge of the pool.
Right.
And hopefully keep them from falling in, not rescuing them from
After the fact.
Wow. So a house can be monitored from afar, but a home cannot be kept from afar. What else? Be present.
And I think learn to be satisfied. Learn to be content. And I think we talked about that a little bit before about you can get so busy chasing what you think you need to be keeping instead of focusing on what you've already been given to keep.
Yeah.
And we're all very familiar, but it's competition. Competition, I think, is the biggest enemy to satisfaction and contentment. The Bible
that
says,
goes for
be
everyone, right?
content
Goes for
with
everyone.
such things as ye have.
Yes.
You know what? If you keep what you've been given well, God will give you more.
Well, that's the role of stewardship.
Yep.
Right? Back
Faithful
to
in
the
a few
Shunammite
things.
lady.
Faithful in a few things, you're going to be given many things.
Right.
Right?
And you know what?
So she kept her house. She kept a room for the man of God, and he said, I can trust you with the child.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And if God's already entrusted you with children and a home and a spouse and keep it well and watch what God adds to your life. You know, some of the most happy, contented, fulfilled people are people that are keeping more things than we could list today. When you really look into their lives, they're keeping on a lot of levels, but they're doing it well. And they're happy. They're fulfilled people. They're satisfied. And back to the competition. Our houses can become show places instead of grow places. The drive can be to make a show place instead of a grow place. And I'm not saying there are no plants, because there are air plants that grow without, but plants pretty much need dirt to grow. So you know what? It's messy. It's messy sometimes to grow. So if you feel like your house is messy on many days, but look around, you're growing things
Oh, yeah, for
that
sure.
have eternal value. You're
sure.
growing. There'll be days when you can put the messy away and you'll have time to build the show place.
Yeah.
But you know what? You'll wish for the grow place
again.
to come back.
Yeah.
The fulfillment that just comes from watching things grow that you're keeping
Yeah.
is a tremendous fulfillment.
Wow. I can remember, I think it was Grandpa McKillop making the statement about being around a preacher that was complaining about children crying and when he was preaching and disturbing and interrupting and, you know. And so then he went and preached somewhere, and it was obviously some senior citizen's home, a.k.a. dying church that had no babies. And he said, oh, what I would give
To hear a
to
baby
hear a
cry.
baby interrupt my preaching again.
Absolutely.
It's okay to step on the Lego in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
And again, I believe that all comes back to growing with that you've been entrusted with.
Right.
A grow place instead of a show place. That's so good.
Absolutely.
And that comes back to the competitive element of it.
Right. Right. So Proverbs 25 verse 17 gives us some pretty concise instruction on how you can curb competition. Withdraw thy foot from thy neighbor's house, lest he be weary of thee and so hate thee. You know,
Wow.
there's not too many ways you can translate that scripture besides get off the neighbor's doorstep.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn.
Bye already.
And there was a day when you had to physically stand on the doorstep to be close enough to a house to be able to tell what was going on inside. But gone is the day. I can be I can be on the other side of the world and virtually sitting on somebody's couch,
Sure.
riding in their car,
Yep.
being stressed by all the things I'm not doing that I think they are doing that really shouldn't matter to me.
And under pressure to keep up with the tempo of their life, the appearance of their life.
Absolutely.
And through social media channels, we're all probably guilty of leaving the front door of our homes open so that
For sure.
people can wander in.
Absolutely.
There are plenty of articles online about security experts, and some of those guys are paranoid as well, but they recommend you limit the amount of posts you put even about your children on your social media, especially young children, because child predators scope out parental social media channels. It's
And they know how to
gross to
capitalize
think
on the
about.
vulnerabilities.
But because parents are so irresponsible posting stuff all the time.
Yep.
They know the name, they know what the child looks like, where they go to play all the time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? They can build these patterns just off of
They
the
know the
social
questions
media.
to ask.
Yeah.
And I know you and I have talked about this, but when we look at the stuff Derek and Allison post about their lavish lifestyle, it's very difficult for us to stay satisfied.
I agree. I really hope they're listening, because
You know what
they
I'm
won't get
saying?
off my doorstep.
I'll tell you where the grief comes in there.
Milo.
Right.
Yeah.
Whenever Jaron
Very hard
sees
for
a picture
Jaron
of
to
the
stay
dog.
satisfied
Yeah.
his
In Jaron's
dogless
mind,
life.
anyone that has a dog is
Living
just
the
on
dream.
another level. Yep. They're
I'm
just
more
on another
comfortable
level.
posting a picture of my dog than I am myself. Some people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Just throw that out there.
That's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
So be present, be satisfied.
And be real.
Okay. Well, that fits in with what we're talking about.
Right. The social media world, people don't post the real days.
Yep.
You rarely see the real day.
Yep.
Yep.
So
You want to forget about those.
exactly.
It's true. Yeah, you don't know what's going on in their life.
You have no idea.
Check out the latest picture of my laundry basket. Check out the no.
No.
Look at all these toys.
Yeah, they
Right.
don't post the pictures of the chaos in the kitchen. They post the completed picture of the ideal meal.
Before anybody took a piece out of it.
But we all live in this reality.
Right.
So it's easy to post the idealistic, but we all live in
The
reality.
reality.
Yes.
And that contributes to
Absolutely. And I
good
think
stuff.
a lot of mental health struggles are that
wow.
right there.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah. No, that's backed up by data. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Wow, has this been awesome?
Yeah, she's got to come back.
She does.
She has more content.
Somebody's
She,
got to tell us in the comments below. Do you want her to come back? Let her feel some love. But as a wrap up, a keeper is to be someone. Number one is a great person,
Right.
and that person is she knows what to constrain, what to let go. She perceives, she solves. She needs to be present. She needs to be satisfied, and she needs to be
Be
real.
real. Be the keeper that God called you to be.
What a role, what a responsibility.
And if you go back to Psalms, God is keeping you so you can keep.
Wow. Wow.
Do we call this beekeepers?
Beekeeper. I'll
There
let
we
you
go.
decide. Thanks for joining us today. Let us know what you think about our guest today. Thank you for being with us, babe.
Thank you for having me.